public health researcher first and then an academician. So my curious researcher's mind, it always thought by, looking at the COVID scenario, that what is going to our field work? How would we get our research going? The scenario, our field work has now halted. Is there any other technique by using which we can get our things going? So the answer lies in the word go digital. So the topic of my today's session is qualitative research technique, the need of digital ethnography in the time of corona crisis. And I would like to start the topic of my presentation by saying the phrase that corona scene is worthy of attention as Anthropocene. So what is Anthropocene? Anthropocene is a recently coined term of a new epoch. And what is a new epoch? It stands for the beginning of the period in the history or the time during which human activities, our activities have impacted the environment. And it has led to a distinct geological change. A well-known example of epoch is Jurassic Age, Cretaceous. A very recent is the Holocene. So Holocene is the current epoch which began in around 11,700 years ago. But recently people have argued that, the geologists, ecologists, anthropologists, they argued that our species has been responsible for this increasing carbon footprint, and because of which global temperature has increased. And as a result of which the flora and fauna has, extinct. And they have given this new terminology, which is known as Anthropocene. But I'm saying that now the curtain has changed. And we have come to the situation that seems like an alien attack. Although the disease has, the things have come to halt. Although it has not made us powerless, but still there are shifting of power. So this corona scene has changed the way people live. It has changed people, they were living in the past. We were telling people to maintain social distancing. I mean, social distancing is a contentious term. So rather than social distancing, people are now saying that, maintain a physical distancing just to prevent ourselves, because here the question is for our survival. So the only means by which we can communicate with each other is going virtual. So digital is a new norm these days. And this digital has transformed our life. If we talk about healthcare, there is a drastic digital transformation. People are now using telehealth services. If we talk about education, if we talk about our usual office work, it has shifted to the virtual office and virtual classroom. But for those researchers who are thriving on research, there are many research institutions, there are many market research organizations. It is rather difficult for them to carry out the task, the activities, especially qualitative research, because it requires more of an intimacy. It requires face-to-face interactions with the people. So in such a circumstance, how can we get the things going? How do we gather the information? Because we are focusing on the things which is not in number. We want much more deeper insight, which we want one more, we want more deeper insight on their experiences, the things which is beyond number. We wanted to understand the words, we wanted to understand the behavior, we wanted to understand the context of it. So here, digital ethnography comes into action. So in the forthcoming slide, I'll be talking about what is the qualitative research. It has now become, what ethnography is. Ethnography has become a buzzword these days, and how ethnography and the transition of ethnography from the traditional ethnography to the digital ethnography in this COVID scenario. So before, doing all this, let us first understand what is a qualitative research and why it is important for even a public health researcher to understand what a qualitative research is. So by doing qualitative research, we explore a wide array of or a dimension of a social world. We wanted to understand the experience of the people. We wanted to focus on why things work rather than how many. We works on why this event is occurring. We wanted to understand the process. We're much more interested in understanding the context of it. So this qualitative research, it provides the in-depth detail, nuances, and the context to any research issue. When we wanted to examine the detail of the sensitive issues like sexuality, sensitive issues like violence, sensitive issues like interpersonal relationship, or the more complex issue like human trafficking, drug use. So in that case, quantitative data collection is not possible, and then we wanted to go for the qualitative data collection. When we wanted to understand the behavior, when we wanted to understand the belief, opinion, emotions of the people, we go for the qualitative research. When we wanted to understand the processes that occur in the hospital setting, so we go for the qualitative method because we are much more interested in getting the experience of the people. We are interested in getting what are the norms, what are the value, what is the cultural context of it. We wanted to identify the social, economic, or physical context of it. So these are just a few examples that says that why qualitative research is important. So when we kind of designing qualitative research, we also have to think about the potential data sources, or how do we gather our data. So most of the qualitative researchers, they use the term data generation rather than data collection, because qualitative is much more beyond the number. Instead of just collecting the data, we are interested in collecting the information or the knowledge for the world on some specific techniques. So that is why it is important. Now, the next part is to identify the potential sources for qualitative data. So for us here, people, we can see people as our data sources because they are the repository of knowledge, they are the repository of experience or the feelings, whatever relevant to our research. But there are much more wider range of method that we can, can be looked into. We might collect the data by observing them. We might collect the data by, video recording them. We might collect the data by if they have made any diaries or scrapbook, then we can collect those things. So not only text, not only the published and unpublished sources, we also focus on the settings. We also focus on the environment, the object, the artifact that this setting produced, the event which is happening. So these are basically how we identify the potential sources of our qualitative data. So, and by using these data sources, we are hoping to assess or explore certain things, which includes expression, which includes language, which include experience, perception, thoughts or ideas, beliefs or faith, the secrets, the memories, the stories, the expressions. So these are the things which we wanted to gather or we wanted to explore by conducting a qualitative interviews. So there are various qualitative approaches which is used for data collection. Observation. In observation, I mean, it's not like this that we only ask the question from the respondent and we get the answer from this. Sometimes we also have to do or use the observation method. Observation method are of two types, participant observation and non-participant observation. In participant observation method, you have to stay there. You have to be a participant when the event is happening or any particular thing is happening and observe how the things are going. And this observation we are also doing in a public health research. Let me give you an example of qualitative research in a hospital setting. For example, we wanted to understand the interrelationship between a patient and a doctor in a public and a private healthcare setting. how does it goes? And basically this interrelationship is helping in the effective treatment. So in order to understand, we are not only focusing on the interaction which is happening between a doctor and a patient, but we are also interested in the behavior. We are also interested in the context. So by looking at those things, a researcher may feel that maybe private setting encouraged a more personalized service rather than public public setting. We have, the person has a territorial control of the setting, which is not there in a public health facility. So that is why these methods like qualitative approaches is important, like observation. Then we have focus group discussion and in-depth interviews or key informant interviews, where we generally discuss with the people. It is like one-on-one discussion, or make a small group of it, because we are interested in the richness of the data rather than collecting so many information, rather than collecting the numbers. So there are case studies, there are success stories. And ethnography. So let me tell you, it's ethnography is one of an important technique, one of an important approach for qualitative research. And ethnography is derived from the term, a Greek word, ethnikos, and it means a picture of people. And Oxford University defined as a study of races. So it is basically a method of observing human interaction in their natural setting, in the social setting, how they are interacting with each other. It is basically the observation of people, a participant observation of the people. You have to stay there and see how they are doing the things. So rather than studying the participant from outside, we are interested in studying and learn what is inside of the participant. So if people must be wondering who invented ethnography. So this technique was invented by Bronislaw Malinowski in 1915, and he was an anthropologist. He wanted to study a tribal group, and this tribal group is Trobriand Islander, which is in Papua New Guinea. And this person, Bronislaw Malinowski, he has spent 3 years in that place. And he has introduced the concept of field work, which we all do these days, which the researcher, they do these days, the concept of the field work. And it is very important. I am a strong supporter of a field work, especially, the participant observation. You cannot do the field work by sitting inside the room. But now we have some limitation, and that is why this digital ethnography come into place. So this ethnography is it is a very immersive technology. It is a very immersive technique of, because we wanted to collect the situation. We wanted to study the situation in a real time. We wanted to understand the deeper aspect of the culture. We are interested in the tacit dimension, which was not articulated by the member, because there are certain things which is articulated, which is told by the respondent, but there are certain things which you cannot record unless you observe it. So this ethnography is generally give us a first-hand experience, exploration of particular social or a cultural setting on the basis of participant observation, or by collecting some other information by using different techniques. So when we are talking about characteristic, the key characteristic of ethnography is it is conducted in a so it is
तो 2 मिनट का काम है.
So it is conducted
10 लाइन का है काम.
अशोक जी प्लीज म्यूट कर लें अपना माइक.
मैंने कर दिया सबमिट.
Okay, so we were talking about the characteristic of ethnography, and it is conducted, as I said, that it is conducted in a natural setting. It is done in a field site. They study about the cultural group of the interest. Now, this ethnography is a labor-intensive task. You just cannot go there. It is very time-consuming. You just cannot go there, collect the data, and come back in one visit. It requires certain spending of time with your respondent. It requires a long-term interaction with the people, participation in their living environment. This kind of this technique requires certain kind of intimacy. So rather than using any tool, the person, the investigator, the researcher spend quality time with the group members, with any particular cultural group members to collect the data by doing some informal interactions. It's also not a formal interaction, it's informal interaction and observation. And he, because by doing this or by participating in this, he can provide a overview of context. And this ethnography is guided by the research question, but not the hypothesis. We're much more focusing on the meaning of the words, the expression, the image. It studies basically three aspects: the cultural behavior. How do they behave? How do people of same culture behave? If there is any cultural artifact which they can make in use, what is the opinion of the cultural group? Known as cultural speech. Apart from this, he also collect, various things like he can do a record analysis, he can observe the physical evidence, he can collect some photographs, he can collect the diaries, letters, or any other physical thing which is available. So now what is the purpose of ethnography? So ethnography discover how people from various culture integrate health or discipline specific beliefs and practice into their life. Because after all, our culture matters and it affects our health seeking behavior also. Number second is it understands the meaning that members of a subculture or group assign to their experience. And it also studies the practices of health. What are the health practices or the other discipline as a cultural phenomena? So after all, culture matters. If people are behaving in certain manner, it is necessarily the role of a culture. And this culture influences the behavior, the perception of an individual. And it matters a lot. And this culture, and it includes the language, the culture, the rituals, the economic, political structure. When we talk about healthcare, ethnographic study, it provides the information about the healthcare beliefs which people are having, the healthcare practices which people are following. If there is any other, if there are any other cultural factor that affect the health of the people. So there are numerous examples by, like Ebola, polio, that tells that in public health, the cases are increasing because of specific cultural norms existing in the society. And once we know about these cultural practices or specific norms, a health intervention is developed. So that is why in public health, we strongly need to understand the culture also. And, in COVID situation also, we are trying to, people are trying to understand the culture, because that is somewhere is responsible for increasing in the surge of cases. Now, when do we use ethnography? Ethnography is used when, you wanted an understanding of a larger issue, when you wanted to study a culture sharing group, when they have shared belief and practices, and these group may be a narrowly framed group in which, like, a teacher's group, because they have their own culture, students. When we talk about doctors, patients, so it is a narrowly framed cultural sharing group. When we talk about a broadly framed, it requires school, hospital, their success stories, their innovation. These groups may be a representative of a larger process or event. For example, graduation day. How do students behave in a graduation day? Or, the family of a children who are suffering from ADHD, autism, or Down syndrome. So these are the things by using which we can use the ethnographic research. Now, as I told you earlier also that in public health, ethnographic research is very important because it helps us in investigating the specific belief or practices of particular illness or particular healthcare processes. It focuses on the culture and subculture, which is framed within a discrete community or phenomena or language where people have specific knowledge about the identified problem. For example, if we talk about polio disease, if we talk about polio, so certain people from certain cultural community, they have some beliefs about the polio vaccine, and that is why they were not going to give the children the vaccine, and as a result the cases was increasing in specific part of it. And India took such a long time to eradicate polio. So these are some of the things by which we can use. Another example which I wanted to give how ethnography is used to address public health challenges is a case of Ebola. So when Ebola virus disease was identified in DRC Congo, there were epidemiological analysis and the certain other analysis that shows that there are certain cultural practices with regard to the physical contact with people who are sick, and they are mainly responsible for the spread of the disease. So if we wanted to tackle the disease, we it's not only the clinical thing which is happening, but also how people perceive it. In order to develop interventions, we also know how people are taking with the disease. So by looking at the community, what they are doing, they have a very emotional bond with the disease, with the sick people and those who are deceased. So what they are doing, they have become much more closer, and they then knew that this is a communicable disease and this is spreading. In case of Sierra Leone, it was found that there is a cultural practices of traditional wash in which the deceased was washed, rubbed, and touched before the burial. And this has led to the many infection. And now this anthropological approach, it actually helped in identifying the cause of the illness. People were not able to find why this is increasing, why the cases are increasing. So this kind of approaches, ethnographic approaches, it helped the community to understand that these are the cultural factors that are posing problem in, in this public health problem, and it has become, and now they have to adapt certain rituals. So a new funeral rite was explored, and disease was tackled. So now, ethnos, when we are talking about ethnography. So ethnography has I already told you that what ethnography is and how it was conducted and why it was important for us to do. But now it has become really a buzzword these days. A buzzword in the business research as well as in the consumer research. Because the goal is to see how the people are behaving, how the consumers, what is the consumer's behavior when they got a new product, when they got a new service, how do they feel? So in those cases, in the business and consumer research, they said that it is important for us to use a qualitative research method, which is in short form, it is also known as ethnos. Because the insight which is obtained from this technique, it really helped in improving the product or services which they really need. So by ethnography, I already told you that it's it is occurring in the natural environment or setting. But when we see the present day situation, COVID-19 lockdown is there, we have to maintain the social physical distancing. Our field work has been terribly hampered. And now what I think as a research, I think now it's a high time for us to shift from traditional or the focused ethnography to a digital ethnography or cyber ethnography. So digital ethnography is nothing but the evolution of ethnography when a digital means is used, apart from the traditional ethnography method. And Traditionally, in the ethnographic study, it involved when a researcher observed the behavior or noticed the behavior or do an informal communication either in person. But when we talk about the cyber ethnography, when we talk about the digital ethnography, technology has a very important role to play. Now we have to use the digital technology, use of technology. So the difference between the two is the logistic and the toolkit. When we talk about cyber ethnography, it is also known as virtual ethnography or the online ethnography. Now, it mainly adapts the ethnographic method to study the community and culture, which is created through the computer-mediated social interaction. But here also, in digital ethnography also, consent play a very, very important role. There are many methods which people are using these days, but I strongly there is a method in which people do the social media analytics. They use Twitter, what is written in the Twitter or the things or the pictures which is already there in the Instagram or any other thing to make the stories of it. But being a researcher, I strongly feel that ethical consideration is very important. And in digital ethnography, if you are not taking consent from the respondent, it's of no use. We cannot do our research. So that is why I am not supporting the social media analytics research, but I strongly support the research which we do by taking the help of some digital means. So as I was telling you, the main difference between the traditional and digital ethnographic study is the toolkit which a researcher used. So in a traditional version, they stay there, they observe the things. Sometimes they even use the cameras, but they have their notepad by using which they can, make notes out of it. Whereas in digital ethnography, they use social media, they use smartphone. There are various new apps are coming. There are various platform by which we can connect with our target respondent and take the interviews or observe the process or the event. So basically it is these are the field note that is emerged from the ethnography, which is now replaced by the digital means. So we want an audio recorder, we want a notebook, we want a sticky pad or MacBook, and these so now it has been replaced by the digital means. So now I'm going to talk about various new tools that are available. So there are various new tools that are available, and some and everything have the cost involved. But some are free of cost also to gather the qualitative data digitally. The first tool which I want to focus on is video chat. So video chat is a great way to foster trust between the participant and the researcher. And it's a very important development when we wanted to facilitate a face-to-face contact and bridging the gap between an in-person and the remote ethnography. And it also takes care of our logistic issue. For example, in our research, if we wanted to interview a person who's sitting in Canada or who's sitting in who's sitting in America, it is not possible for us to go there and collect the data from the person. So in that case, the video chatting is it's a very feasible method which is available for us. And this tool also allow meeting of a participant in multiple locations, so we can meet them on multiple occasions. So we can use either Skype, we have Zoom meeting, which is going on right now. So we can use this technique as a digital ethnography method and get our things going. They are remote also, but even after, it is remote, but we can do a face-to-face interaction with the people. We can observe who's doing what, and, we can take the field notes. And if we want, we can even record, audio or video record those things. And the second smart tool which I wanted to focus on is the smartphones. So we are using smartphones for everything. So mobile ethnography. So mobile ethnography is also a digital auto-ethnographic technique that help the researcher to do a asynchronous qualitative research remotely. It also enables us to capture real life human need and behavior. And it also gives us a deeper appreciation of the cultural and context By using this mobile ethnography, we can see whether the person is actually repeating, his repetitive behavior. It can give us a proof of the repetitive behavior. By using mobile ethnography, we can also see that because it's a private way of telling the things which we never say in the person. So I can, so I'll in the next slide, I'll be telling you a software, Indimo, which allow this mobile ethnography and as well as mobile diaries. So there is a tool which is known as Indimo, and Indimo, it provides apps like Instagram or Pinterest like dashboard, which is used to analyze the data. Now comes mobile diaries. So this mobile diaries, so this mobile diaries, they are also a very powerful tool. It's also a very non-invasive way to tell that what is the daily routine of your respondent, because in ethnographic study sometimes we also ask for the diaries. What is what is happening in the daily life of a people in great detail, and that you can help by using the mobile diary. You can capture the data, you can capture the insight, and you can note down the activities, timing of the event, the habits, behavior, without being and getting entered into their life. So when they say all those things, they can secretly share with you. And this is used basically for a small group of people who are already pre-recruited for a part of a study. They can you can even capture the personalized detail by understanding their feedback, and you can also get the instant feedback in the various forum. So I was talking about Indimo, and Indimo is a app, mobile ethnography app, and a qualitative research dashboard. And by using this, it is very easy for us to capture the behavior, the insight, which help in understanding the people. So, but this Indimo is, we have to take the, the platforms platform because as I said that everything has a cost involved, but it is very popular, and most of the, organization, those who really wanted to pursue this digital ethnography, they are using this. And this platform is used, as I told you, for the consumer diaries, for the mobile ethnography. You can get the feedback. Yeah, and it is a very simple interface, and it is very easy for the participant to get the grip of it. It has 4 types of input. You can you can also have like photographs, video, text you can write, mobile screen recording is there in this app. And this whenever you wanted to get enter into the life of the people, tasks can be set up. You can ask for the people to set up a task, and then you can arrange a meeting for them, and everything can be done sequentially. So when you wanted to use this software, you have to finalize a budget by talking with the Indimo people, and then this Indimo people, they create they create a specific app. I mean, this app is already created. You just have to tell them that this is my requirement, and as per your project requirement, they will make it. They will make the dashboard and everything. And then when you're ready to launch, you just have to send this app this app detail or the email link to the people. When they when they get the email link, they can install in their mobile phone and use it. And whenever you want the data, you can get that data. So analysis also is very easy. It can be done by manual tagging, by thematic analysis is also done. So these are some of the features of Indimo, and it's a paid software. And then another software is the online diary. And we have app like Penzu or Write Diaries, and it provides online diaries, because ethnographer, they uses this tool for the data gathering, because because diaries are very important, and most of the people have the habit of maintaining personal diary, which has become online. And whenever they use this app, I mean, this app is like free of cost, and you can easily install it. And whenever you wanted to share it, you can share it with the the researcher. And all the information which is there in this online diary, they're secure and password protected, unless when you share it with the people. So this is this is the one, the Penzu. So it's a free diary journal and a notepad app, and it allows you to have unlimited journaling and ability to add pictures, which is secured and password protected also. And you can get the access by using the web browser via Penzu Cloud, and it has all the functions like tagging functions and so on. Then Vox Pop video. Vox Pop video is another format of digital ethnography. Vox Pop is a Latin phrase that stands for the voice of the people. Now, it is generally used when people have like high engagement with the smartphones. So people did just record short video message, and whatever the topic is, they think out like loud, or they share their thought with the researcher instantly. Generally, it is used in consumer research, and the example is like unboxing video. So unboxing video is basically the unpacking of the product. So whenever any person purchase a very high-tech consumer product, they wanted how people are reacting to it, or how are they liking the thing. So this unboxing video captured all those process when you make the video. So I guess I've already taken much time. Sir is looking at me. So this is the last tool which I wanted to discuss. So this is the Atlas TI. Everyone knows that Atlas TI is a qualitative tool which is being used for analysis of the data. But I want to tell you that Atlas TI has also made a app in which we, for the data gathering. So Atlas TI Mobile is the app, and it is for Android. Now it is offering a very easy way to collect the data in the field. And it can easily, record audio, video, geolocation, which we want. And the unique feature of Atlas TI is we can create any project which we want. We can record, we can assign segment or code photos, and we can create and edit text document. We can add images. We can write, this is, so as you can see here, there is a, it's a very simple app by using which, if you just click on this add a project, you can add a new project. If you wanted to add image, you can add new image, add audio, you can add audio. If you want to add video, text, so all these feature is available. And if you wanted to create one, that option is also available here. And if you wanted to do the coding, that is also available, like 3 separate areas where you can write the quotations also, and where you can write the notes also. You can write your comments also. And if you want to write memos, because at the time of qualitative interview, it is important to write the memos, which is a shorter, your experience, or what is your thought on that interview, or what is your observation in the interview. So this facility is also there. So it's 10:51, and I think I'm through. Thank you so much for your patience. And let's hope to use some digital ethnographic methods in our future research. Thank you, sir.